All right.
Okay, jumping right down to Lynch then. So we're gonna start off, Chris is gonna give a little summary of what's been going on with the news articles and such. And then we'll get into the rest of the Lynch agenda. Chris, if you
Yeah,
want to take.
so you hear me okay, Jay?
Yes,
So as some committee members might be aware, I know some folks had reached out to me with questions and folks reached out to Jay as well. There was a press release last week from a member of our Beacon Hill delegation in a subsequent newspaper article, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that stated that Winchester was going to be receiving $5 million in additional reimbursement from the MSBA for the project. And while that would be great, that's not sort of quite right, at least not yet. That the figure that was in the press release, that $4.96 million figure, just wanted to remind the committee that number actually represents the increase in the estimated guaranteed maximum facility grant. That goes back to January, a letter I think Andy or Vivian reviewed with us at the time, following the MSBA Executive Board's decision to raise the construction cost cap limit. But everything we were doing at that time in terms of math for both estimate and reimbursement, project cost and so forth, that was based on a schematic design estimate that we had from feasibility. So our conversation that we all had as a committee back in January was that although that letter came out, I think it was January 12th, Vivian and Andy and the team were literally days away from submitting the actual schedule of values because of course we had gone out to bid and we had Braid on board. So they did that. Andy submitted that information. I think it was on January 22nd. And so our understanding with the MSBA since that point is that they are actually in the process of reviewing Hill's submittal. They look at each trade carefully. They're going to look at every project expense to determine if it's eligible or ineligible. If it's eligible, what sort of reimbursement cap is it subject to? So we have some caps that are a cost per square foot basis. We have some other cost caps like site work where it's a percentage of the overall project cost. So it's I don't even know if I want to call it an algorithm. It's something more nuanced than that. It's a lot of work. Lynch is one of, I think it's 39 projects.
39. Yep.
That they're
has to go
evaluating.
through.
So Jay and Andy and I had a conversation with MSBA senior staff last week about this. They had also seen some of those press reports. And so we wanted to just check in with them and number one, kind of understand where we were, but kind of number two, reaffirm with them that we do understand they're going through a process and they're just literally not done yet. They told us that this typically takes 20 weeks for them to come up with a number. Springtown meeting, which they know we're coming up on, we would love to be able to share with Springtown meeting what the increased reimbursement actually is. So that's going to be April 29th. That's the opening night of town meeting. That would be 14 weeks. They're aware of that. They've made no commitment to us to get us that number. They know how much we would like to have it by then, but 20 weeks would actually be June 10th. So it was a good conversation. It was a respectful conversation. Like I said, they know how much we want it, but Andy, I think, did a nice job just reviewing the schedule of values submission with them. And I'm going to shut up in a moment and ask Jay or Andy to fill in any blanks. But my impression from our conversation with them is that we will not be getting $5 million in additional reimbursement. We'll be getting something, and it'll be great news. But we just don't have that number yet. So that's why the EFPBC isn't making any kind of public pronouncements about this. But they're working hard on it. And like I said, they've had it since January 22nd. Jay or Andy, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I'll chime in. What you said was exact. They did say they have 39 projects that are all getting this additional reimbursement or funding, whatever they want to call it. And it seems like the way Evan was talking, there's only one person putting these all together and at least getting them in line before they go off to project managers. So I can see the backlog. And, you've been getting conversations. I've been getting questions. It looks like the biggest thing is that the school was a little bit under budget. We got to take the solar and now we're getting 5 million extra, which I think that's it's just a misinterpretation of what the article said. So as long as we're all on the same page and we really shouldn't put anything out official, like Chris said, until we get this letter from the MSBA, and then post that letter with all, and we have time to agree to it too, right, Andy? They send us in, we
Yes.
have 14 days to review it and reply, right?
Yes, correct. Usually they'll give you 14 days to review. If you have any question, if not, you can accept that. And then once you accepted it, and they will set up a meeting, they will allow the district to send in 2 pro pay submission for that, whatever that month is. And so anything in the past that is ineligible, they'll make it eligible, and that you can recoup some of the money. That's the next step. So
Great. That's good news that they'll help and get us paid right away.
yeah, but you're not going to get that full 4 point something million right away. You can get a portion, and then as you get submitting for a reimbursement, you get a higher chunk of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
So,
All right. Anyone have questions for Chris or anyone on this? Don't see any hands. Okay. We'll move on to the monthly project construction. Andy, you're going to take that from Hill?
yes.
Go right ahead.
Can I have the option to share my screen? All right. So I'll start off with the presentation, and then I'll jump right into the monthly report. Let's see. So for construction update, right now we're working on the water line, sewer line, drainage. So we once that is done, we should be getting steel next week. They're supposed to be coming this week, but we call them, we push it out a week because we want to get the water line and sewer. So that way, once they're here, that's more active. It got pushed out by a week, but their end date is still going to be like in July. They're going to finish all the steel work by July. There's no delay on the project. The footing work is still ongoing, and we're still working on the foundation wall, excavation, working on the infiltration system, and also working on the swell for the sites, the stormwater management. We just talked about the MSBA update, so I'm not going to provide any more information on that. So here's a picture of the demolition of the existing Lynn School that is completely complete. As you were on site last week with the groundbreaking, you saw that the building is completely down. Here's another picture of the at the foundation work where the gym is. This area, we call that area A again. Here's the dashboard. So let me zoom in a little bit. So this month, for the reporting period of March, we completed the construction demolition, completed the north footing foundation and the foundation wall at the north side, north wall. We installed completed the gate valve at the Brentwood. That's the water line for the water line. We're starting to do damp proofing for the foundation install. We completed the installation of the infiltration system at lot 1. And then a couple of tasks that are going to be happening in April we're going to continue working on the new water line, which is happening right now, sewer line, drainage. We're going to be removing the existing, once we're done with the new water line, we're going to be removing existing utility line like water and any drainage. We're going to be removing those. Continue working on infiltration system, and then getting delivery of steel starting right now. We have it for the 15th of April. And then also working on the mock-up for the exterior. So as I mentioned, steel is going to still on target for the end of June or the first week of July completion. That's including the metal decking. And then, roofing, we're targeting to get that done by September 1st. So everything on the schedule is still the same. Window, I mentioned before at the last meeting, we're still targeting for December. That's still right on schedule. And then, the underground plumbing, fire protection, those will be done in the spring of 2025. I have on the monthly report later, I have the full baseline schedule updated version. So you guys can review that in detail. And if you have any question, please forward it to Jay and he'll get it to us. We'll answer any question. Mark, you have a question? Scott?
I see visual mock-up on site in April. Is that done or is that just getting started?
That's getting started. So they're based on their, 3-week look ahead. They're looking to finish the pouring and then do most of the work in between April and May for the mock-up. Chris Nixon.
Yeah, so I had a question related to Mark's actually. So I think we had some conversation with Charlie at some point, given that we've seen exterior materials in limited quantity, in the basement of Town Hall months ago. We had talked about bringing those back out on site, maybe even larger quantity just to see them in the daylight. Is there going to be an opportunity for us to do that maybe at the trailers before the mock-up is built? Just curious how that works, particularly some of these materials, given the submittal schedule and contractors wanting to order products.
Chris Chucky, I think we're getting sample coming in as part of the submittal process, right? Correct?
We are. So we've been receiving some samples. I don't know off the top of my head if we've received any of the brick or phenolic, but there is still time to, obviously look at that stuff. We can talk to the mason to see if they can get like a bigger board of the sample kind of set to look at on site. And then we can see if we can get a little bit bigger samples of phenolic and things like that. That's a little harder sometimes to pin down. They don't always love to send you big samples of those types of things, but all the samples will be going towards, the construction trailers and things like that. So if there is a desire for some panels and things like that for the masonry, we can work through that.
Well, obviously, when we do the mock-up on site, that's for both technical use and aesthetic as well. So I think I think, Jay, we had this conversation with Charlie at some point. I don't think I imagined it, that there could be an opportunity to see some of these exterior materials one more time on site, daylighting,
Definitely.
before they're getting ordered even for the mock-up. And so I think that would be useful. I'm not sure who would really be coordinating that. Maybe it's Tom on behalf of the OPM, and they're available on site, and committee members can come by and take a look if they want to. I don't know that we need to hold a meeting out there to do it, but for VO in the high school, we've done that, and we actually did have an EFPBC meeting once to look at exterior materials for VO, but that was a little easier back then because we were meeting at Town Hall, so we just went out into the parking lot and Brooke had everything set up for us. But I think it'd be important to figure out how we could do that, and I think that was going to include glass as well, Chris.
Okay.
So, Chris, I think Chris is for Chris Shockey. Brick Builder has been great. I mean, I think this Thursday we can bring it up. We can ask for the exterior material, like the brick, anything that brick. Give me a list, and then we can bring it up at the OAC meeting this Thursday, and we'll ask for that. And then once we're ready, we can let you guys know to come by. We'll set up something, look at the coloring, and on the selection.
Okay, Mark, another question?
Yeah, so that list, it would be brick, phenolic, glass, and would you have color chips for any of the copings? What else goes on the visual mock-up?
Yeah, might be a little metal panel potentially. But yeah, which would, in theory match, you know, kind of the window
Copings.
frames and the copings and all that, right? So that would all
Yeah.
kind of hopefully be the same, if not similar within, you know, visual range. But yeah, and really for us, a lot of the big mock-ups, right, are for technical, making sure that things aren't leaking, making sure all the details are correct. So that's just so you guys know, that's my number one. And then after that, we can kind of figure out all the materials. But you know, Brait's been right on it. I've been talking to them about all kind of the details for the mock-up. So I think they have it well positioned.
Okay.
I
Chris,
got
you all
one
set?
more.
Okay.
Yeah, so my memory is we met at town hall, Chris. Maybe Mark can correct me on this. I'm not sure we had talked about mortar color, that maybe that was something you guys were still evaluating. I don't know if my memory's right on that or not, but could that be included as well? I'm assuming you've settled on mortar color at this point.
I don't believe we talked about mortar color. That doesn't ring a bell, but we can talk about it and figure that out too. We just haven't. I don't have an idea of exactly what that would be, so we can talk because
Okay,
and figure out what's best.
thank you.
Anyone else for Andy? No, you can move on.
So the, as I mentioned earlier, our critical item on that, right, the utility work, once we get the water line and the sewer line, you know, completed, that we'll be doing like a lot of the steel, concrete and all those stuff, things will be flying. On the cash flow side, we're, you know, a little bit under, but, you know, in April, once the concrete and the steel are up, we're gonna be like, you're gonna see it, the actual will be jumping, we'll be catching up. But right now, we're like a little bit under our projected cash flow. I want to share a little bit on the time lap of the demolition and what's going on site. So just be a little patient here. The first few seconds here is going to be a little lagging because we moved the camera from where the existing school into like the other side of the site. You know, this is where they first started the excavation work. So we moved the camera down to this the side of the west side of the building. You can see a little corner of the existing lynch school, and then work. You know, we started the foundation work on this side, C building, as you can see here. You know, we started the abatement of the windows. And now you can see the whole entire work on site. So glad that we were able to use the swing space. You see how tight they're working, like the foundation on the north side and removing the existing at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So right now, this area here where the water line that we want to concentrate on, you know, but once next week come, you know, we should be finishing the water line in this area and then remove the existing water line. So that way, when steel come next week, you know, they'll be flying pretty quickly. You know, our target is to finish this area, like in area A down here, where the gym is, in April, and then work toward here in May, and then, you know, by June we'll be finishing area C, That's, by July 7 earlier, the way I mentioned that we'll be done with the decking as well. That's where we are right now today. So I will jump quickly onto my monthly report here. So this is the March monthly report. Can you see it? You guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. So if anybody have any question, please again send it to Jay and he'll get it to us. So here, the usual stuff, the regular team. So on the update, let me just zoom in here. So what's going on right now? Again, we try to get most of the site work and utility work done. As I mentioned earlier, we finished the infiltration work at lot 1, and then we're working toward lot 4 for the drainage work. Targeting to finish the water main and the sewer line this month. So that way we can get steel next week. Continue working on the footing and foundation. As I mentioned, right now at the same time we're working on the exterior mock-up as well. And as I mentioned many times, that steel is will be delivered April 15. So last Friday, as they were working, they hit like the existing water main, but it was repaired on that same day on Friday, even though you guys were there for the groundbreaking. But we, site contractor hit the water line, and they were able to repair that with the help of DPW. They were out there fixing it, but there was no impact to the groundbreaking. But it's totally repaired already, and everything is up by the end of the day on Friday last week. That's one issue. So as I mentioned, like March milestone completed. I mentioned that finishing the demolition, continue working on the footing, foundation, waterproofing, utility work. UTS continue to be on site with the compaction, concrete, and rebar testing. We also have Weston and Sampson niche on site with the inspection of the soil and any infiltration underfooting inspection is still ongoing. We completed the groundbreaking. So in April, steel delivery and installation. So that will go on from April, May, and June. We'll be working on the infiltration work at lot 4, continue working on utility work, install temporary power, and the utility, the underslab utility work. So a couple of key meetings. We typically have our owner, architects, and the contractor meeting every Thursday. We're going to continue doing that. We will have our next lead meeting on May 7th at 12:30 p.m. Thank you to the folks that attended the last meeting. I think it was very, it's been going great, and thank you for all the feedback. With the owner side as well. We have right now tonight is the EFPBC meeting. I have April 8th in there. The MSBA next site visit will be May 30th, and then they will be doing another one on July 25th from 11:30 to 12:30. Right now, there's no change on the budget. The Bright Builder is still at 68,216,500. There's no additional change order to date. There are a few PCO out there still under review with the team. Our WFB we're right on the goal. There's no safety issue. I know their last couple of meetings was still some concern about truck going off site, driving too fast. We've been talking about that at every OAC meeting with Bright Builder. They're aware of that, and we've been monitoring it ever since. A couple more photo. This is the infiltration system that at lot 1 that I mentioned that this work is completed. Footing, we'll continue working on the footing at area A and area B. As I mentioned, area A is where the gym is, this area here. So right now they're still working on it, the footing at area A and B. They pour the foundation wall here at area B. Same thing, pour foundation work at area A. This is that water gate valve that was installed on Han Pond Brook side. This was installed like about, I think, last week. This here, they removed, the curve and the asphalt to be, to do this, the storm water as well. Yeah, this is the existing Lynch demolition, as you saw on the time lap earlier. It's completely gone. Continue progressing at the north side of the site. This is where the north side is, with the footing, the foundation. Things are going well. We'll be ready for next Monday's steel delivery. There's not much to report on the financial. As I mentioned, we'll be catching up on the cash flow next month for the April requisition with the steel delivery and the concrete. That will get us right on the cash flow. As I mentioned, we have an updated schedule. I'm not going to go into every detail. I have it on my dashboard with the key milestone dates. There's not a lot of stuff on the critical path right now, like fireproofing is on it, but there's a lot of float there. So I do want to point out that so right now, Bright Builder, they'll be finishing at the end of May 2025, based on their schedule. Just want to point out the last area here. All right. So they right now, they'll finish the building and have final inspection by the first week of June. They will start the inspection from May to June. So the whole month of May will be doing inspection and then punch list. So right now we're still right on target, right on schedule. And then we'll do the building flush out once all the furniture and everything is in place. So they'll do the flush out. That's also part of the lead requirement. And that's it. I mean, we have our like manpower count here on the weekly report. If you guys need to, there are more picture here. Every month on the monthly report, we'll have 4 weeks of the weekly report. If you guys want to review in detail, we save them on the Google Drive as well. And then just any question, just please email it to Jay and he'll get it to us. Any question?
Now, Andy, I have one quick question for you. How is utility response going, like with the transformer? And it's starting to bump out again well over a year. Are we okay with the utility?
I don't think we have any concern. I know
Okay.
the team start looking into like the submittal for the MEP stuff right now. Even like here's another one like elevator. They're looking at that. We've been working with Bright Builder on like any hot submittal or any long lead item. I get, on another project, we got the switch gear pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was referring to the utility company's transformer. That's the one.
Oh, utility, yeah,
Our work orders are all in line, everything's good?
The Bright Builder is starting on that, yes. We already talking about, we already have a work order in place. And yeah, things are going good on that. We did identify that very early on.
Okay. Geetha, you have a question for Andy?
Yeah, quickly, Andy, I'll just, it's nice that when you showed the video clip, there's no standing water in the foundation footing area. That's great news. Question, when you have the screen up in front of us, I guess, and I quickly glanced through, it, I guess, appeared to be several steel submittals on the hot item or something like that. It's listed. Is it of concern? That's not, so I just wanted to kind of ask, but
Yes.
the other,
So anything in yellow here, this is the submittal log, we
Yeah,
meet
yeah.
every week, and then we've been talking with, the design team, the structure engineer, that these are hot items, and we're pushing very
Yeah.
hard on them, like, they're like a couple hundred pages of submittal. And, the structure engineer and the design team are working very hard to
Right,
get
right.
them out.
So you
Yeah.
keep saying the steel is going to show up. I just had a curious question. If it's still a hot item, how can we?
These are different area.
Okay.
So the steel that we need for the area A next week, those are
Okay.
set. Yeah, these are
Okay.
like different area of the steel. They break
Alright.
them into different sections, so that way they can get it out quickly.
Okay, I know you have several good photos. It would be nice to see how when you showed the lot one, and then how the solar footings are sitting in between the infiltration chambers. I know I had a curious question how is it going, but it would be one photo to show that. Is it lot one that we have am I saying the lot number correctly? Up in the front, where we have the, solar footings, and how is it snugging in between the infiltration chamber? It would be nice to see a photo, but anyway.
I've asked for that already. Mark's gonna take some pictures when they get to doing that.
Yeah,
We haven't done the
I
solar
guess it's
footings
just
yet.
curious. In
Yeah.
case we want to expand our infiltration chamber, what's the game plan, Let's say. No, that's sort of, the other question, Andy, I'll quickly run. I know we have the, maybe to Chris, to tap it. We have the subgrade inspection by our engineers. I'm assuming, they are giving us sort of a subgrade observed inspection report, Chris, to cover ourselves down the road, and knowing that this building pad is going to sit on a fill. Are you anticipating sort of a overall picture giving at the end, saying that they observed a representative portion of it, they feel that it's adequate to support the building, sort of thing, Chris? Yes?
Yeah, so UTS, which is
Not
kind of the
UTS, from the
not
engineer.
yeah, so Niche has been on site to
No,
look at.
I think the foundation is with Andy. It's not Niche, correct?
I think it's both Niche and Weston Sampson.
Yeah,
Both of them have been on site, and they've been issuing reports. Those are uploaded to Procore, and they have been out there very frequently.
Right. Out there is one thing, but I guess at the end of the day, they kind of give a report they observe the representative portion, and then they feel that it's adequate to support the building, or so to speak.
Yeah, we have reports. They've been out, and they've been providing reports, and they been out there very frequently, and been inspecting.
Okay. Maybe just a question to throw it out there. I guess I did see the bridge work, the change order coming, and I know any anticipation we would know that number. And I know when you go down to the page, do you have some change orders upcoming listed, Andy? Like going down on your monthly report?
We have a few. We have a few PCO.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like we have that tree pruning.
Yeah, the next page.
PCO.
Next page, I think, is showing the bridge. Yes, right there.
Yeah.
So is this the one
still
under
waiting.
review or something? No.
No, we're still waiting for the price on them. They said unsubmitted. These are the unsubmitted ones, but the Bright Builder pricing them right now.
I see. I guess, Chris, I guess from Tape, is this something you're anticipating that it would also involve the work of the LSP from the owner and the contractor, Chris?
so
Yeah,
for the bridge.
yeah.
Yeah, so that
When can we get a good number, Grip, at this point?
Yeah, so we have submitted some revised documentation from Niche, right, to Brait, and they're kind of working with their sub to kind of work on those numbers. Where the bridge won't be worked on until the following summer, 2025. So we have some time to kind of work through that if there's anything, but yeah, we're still kind of
Do
waiting
you
on that.
see LSP being involved in both sides, the owner and the contractor side, during this work?
I don't know, Andy, do you have any
I think they
ideas on
should
that?
be.
But
Yeah, I think on the
yeah.
brickwork, they'll, I think they will be involved. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
both
Because-
the LSP and also niche. When you mentioned the LSP, I'm expecting Weston and Sampson, correct?
No, licensed sites professional. I don't know who Tappy wants to have it, but just
Yeah, I think it's Weston Sampson.
I believe they, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think they will be involved. This is, it's important. We'll make sure they're involved.
Mhm.
All right.
Also, while you're looking at that, the 008, we're not expecting to see any fee on that. That's a relocation of the canopies to make room for more screening, correct?
That's slightly different.
Oh, this is a different
Um,
one?
Yeah, that's that's a different one than that adjustment to the footings. So that 008 is basically coming from looking at all the submittals and kind of some of the shops. And for the PV systems, and if you remember, we kind of had three different PV systems. The one over the outdoor classroom was in the base, and then the roof, and then the canopies right over parking. And so now with all of those in the project, we were able to kind of look at that a little bit and see if there was a few efficiencies that we could get. And so it's just kind of reworking some of the equipment, not a whole lot, just to try to up the efficiency of the system, because we're being able to bring that all together. So that's all that is.
Yeah, just quick question. I know we learned a lot when we had the solar panel on top of the building. I guess we had a setback system. Just curious, the parking lot one, the canopy, would they also have a drainage system?
They
Yeah.
do. Yep.
They do. Okay.
Yep. There's a gutter and downspout.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. Any other questions for Andy on the report? Okay, thank you. Gonna move on to the playground structures, and Frank or Andrew, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure, I can introduce it. Hi, everyone, good
Okay.
evening.
Hey, Andrew.
And so a couple months back now, I think we took the original design and there's feedback mostly around preschool playground in terms of its original design. We met with Tappy and Warner Larson, along with our kind of educators and the principal at Lynch, along with the representatives from WinPAC and some other community stakeholders to review what that design was. So Chris will show you shortly kind of that iteration we went through in terms of the original design. And the intent of the preschool playground was to mirror more of what they saw was beneficial at the existing Lynch school, the old one, where they had certain features and allowed students to play together and kind of at appropriate heights and enough open space. And then on the K-5 playground, we reviewed it with the kind of the same stakeholders in terms of accessibility and open play there. And so you see we asked for a new kind of accessible spinner, allows for inclusion of those with a wheelchair to be part of that play. So you'll see, I think, a picture of that, and some modifications to those swing sets. So I think through many meetings and a lot of time with those folks, including our preschool director and their staff, we got a lot of great feedback. I think we've kind of gotten close to this final design that we want to move forward. So I think we're still vetting out some of the cost considerations here, but this is pretty much where we see it going. So I'll turn it over to Chris, and then happy to answer any questions from our end.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
Thanks, Andrew. Let me share my screen. All right. So this was the presentation that Andrew was talking about that we, along with Warren Larson, had created a few months ago to talk about the playgrounds. So there are basically 4, I would say, different play areas. And we'll kind of go clockwise, starting at the pre-K. So there's pre-K play, and then in the middle, there's the K through 5 play with the field below. And then there's a hard surface play next to the gym. There's a little canopy, covered canopy over that. So that'll be nice. And then in the back next to the soccer fields, there's what we're calling the bonus play. And so this was the previous design that we had. So on the right, there was a track and an open play area. Yeah, and then there was various kind of play equipment structures. There was one, A is kind of a climbing one, B was a spinner, and then C was a sensory board. And so through the feedback that we've gotten, yeah, so you can see that a little bit better in this 3D image. And so what we did was we replaced the main climbing structure, we removed the spinner, we kept the sensory wall, and then so that image to the left, that bottom left, is an example of that sensory wall. And the track, we had it with like a concrete track so that they could ride bicycles and things like that. But through the feedback, that's better off as a safety surface. So we're switching that. So this is a plan of the new climbing structure in that pre-K area. You can see that the play structure has grown in size, and we have kept that sensory wall to the right, and then kind of cut off is that kind of more open space. This is a visual that generally, I believe this is what we're kind of going to be having in that space. Color, we can change and kind of modify with the school, but this is generally what we're doing for the play structure. And so it adds a few more slides and some different spots to get on. I think, yeah, if you see, there's a couple different transfer stations and stairs and different ways to get up. And again, the sensory wall to the left. And then one thing that we got feedback on, and one thing that they really liked about their existing play structure was this tunnel tube. And so we wanted to add that back in because of all the great things that we heard about that. Yeah, so that's kind of the updates to the pre-K. This is the grades 1 through 5 in that middle zone. The field is kind of below us. So this was the previous design. I believe if I keep going, it'll show you. Yeah, so here's a rendering of what the previous design was. I think this gives us a little bit better of a picture than just the 2D. But on kind of sloping, I think you can see my cursor, but coming up into the left, up to this top, it's a sloped ramp. It's a 5% grade change, so it's accessible. You don't need anything, and it's a pretty easy ramp to get up if you're in a wheelchair or have mobility issues. And so it gets you up to this play structure up here, which is about 5 feet from kind of this bottom area. So a lot of this stuff we've tried to keep as, as that main structure, but we have altered some of the slides. So this embankment slide, we went from a single slide to a double. This brown was a modified, like a wood fiber. And so a lot of that we're gonna look at doing the safety rubber surface. And then over here, there was a spinner, like a basket spinner. And that's gonna switch to more of an accessible spinner. And I have a picture of that in a little bit. And then the swings over here, we got rid of this kind of disc basket swing, and we added more, just your typical swings. And then this here is an accessible swing. And so there's a variety of ways to get up to this play station or play area, I guess, the ramp, and then a little bit more accessible with the transfer up here. And then you can use the stairs with some railings and things. Yeah, so this is the revised plan. It's similar, but we did, make some updates with the accessible spinner towards this side, the double embankment slide here, and we just made sure that it was a little bit more accessible all the way around. And then this is examples of that accessible spinner. So we went through from kind of a basket, which is a little bit, it's up off the ground a little bit more, and so it's harder, to use versus this one. So I think this will be a really nice feature. And then here are a couple more images of the revised structure. So you can see to the kind of in the background to the left is the double embankment slide. Yeah, that's a good picture of it. And so one thing that, we had heard was that some kids really like to go together, right? And so, having one doesn't really do that. So kind of widening it up, that will allow a little bit more fun and accessibility. Just more images of that play structure. And then we went from the basket swing to more of your typical swings. And then we did, this is the open play, the turf field. So it's not huge, but it'll definitely be good for gym if they need to, or just recess and having various games. And then this is the hard surface play next to the gym. It's on the west side of the gym. There will be a covered canopy over it, and it has, as you can see down here, a basketball tree. So they'll have multiple goals at different heights. There's going to be a 4 square and some other various printed things on the pavement, and then kind of a half court. And then this is that bonus play on the north side next to the fields. So this one is a little bit more organic in terms of the play equipment. and we had heard kind of some feedback on wanting something a little different. And so you can see that there's, these logs that you can just jump and play around. And then what they're calling a climbing net or tent. It's just a net. And then a couple more swings with a basket. And then we also made this area a little bigger. And so there is a kind of a bonus little area for something else if we wanted to add that in later. There was an idea of some more imaginative play kind of structures. So that's an example of one down to the bottom left. And that's it. That's kind of the highlights of kind of where we are with the playground.
Okay, any questions for Chris?
This is Lisa.
Lisa?
It's better. It's still, I mean, it's better. However, there are things there that I think in the future when we go to do another school, we need to have the DAC involved earlier, because even as I'm looking at these good designs and modifications, some of the things that are selected are not the most accessible or universally accessible. So that's what I just want to say to it. I think we need to get the DAC involved earlier in the process. You know, I mean, we've got the state-of-the-art school. I just wish the playground was a little bit easier, but I understand for the financial constraints and everything, but there are things that I'm looking at and I'm just doing it's just that are not really too accessible. But there's a lot that's good here, much more improvement. But that's just what I want to say to it. And I appreciate the input that we've been able to have, but I do think we need to try to do it a little early on to make sure that anything we try is more accessible in the playground. Because some of the trying to say it correctly, some of the equipment or the play structures, I guess we'd call it, are okay, but they're not meeting 100% of what it should be. But I think in the future, I think as we look at other playgrounds for the school system, I think we could work more on this ahead of time. I think would make it better. But it is a big improvement. So I mean, I'd like to share this with the DAC if that's all possible, if that's okay at this point, or would you rather I wait?
Well, they've been involved, haven't they, Chris?
Yeah, we've been involved, but
Yeah.
you know, this last design, I mean, we got this last design of what they recommended like later. And I think that if we could do it earlier on, I think we'd be able to select the right things early on in the design of the playground.
I mean, Lisa, is there specific items that you
Yeah, I
don't
see a
like
couple
right
here
now?
that I would just say, I would, you know, the one that he showed there with the ones with the stepping, I can't think, I don't have
The
exactly in front of me,
the
but
logs.
yeah, the logs are
Yep.
not, the logs are not appropriate. And that's not, I mean, yes, that's it, but that's not something that's very accessible. And especially with anybody with a mobility thing, and I'd rather we save our money and put something into something else that we could do there that would be better. I know, that's just my opinion on that.
I mean,
It's just, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Chris, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be taking too much time. Sorry, guys.
no, this is great. No, I'm all for it. I can talk to Warren Larson and see if there's something else that we can do here that would be a little bit more accessible and universal. I think this was just based on some initial feedback of having something a little bit more organic and playful in terms of,
Yeah.
some of the organic feel, I guess, of it.
We have Frank and Chris. So Frank, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, if I could please. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think that what's important in the presentation itself is to focus on the preschool and the K through 5 main structure in particular. Those were really the areas that we really focused on with staff and with you, as you know. The outside, the back playground area, and what you just referred to specifically, like the those wooden, that really has not been designed fully. That those are concepts that that we are still really kicking around. But I would be I'd be a little disappointed to think that people didn't feel like they were heard, and that what they had, the input that they gave, is truly reflected in the preschool and the K-5 main structures, with the addition of the spinner in particular also. But because there was a lot of effort put into that, and I do think that the comments were heard, and I think the design team did a great job really kind of responding to those. There were quite a few changes that were made, and in fact, as you know, Lisa, I mean, really the preschool and the K-5 main structures are completely different than what they were initially, and that only happened because of the feedback that the team received from you and from others. So, but I certainly hear you on the last slide in the back playground. We've talked about that as a community playground. I think we have a lot more. We have more time on that, and I think there are more options on that. So I would just wanted to add that really, from my perspective, the preschool and the K-5 playground have really benefited from the input.
No, and Frank, I do agree, there's been a lot of improvements, but I just, as we finally, try to finally tweak it, as we say, to make sure it's just, we get another look at or go at it, just to make sure, because it's an important thing that's going to be around for many years. And I would just hope, so that's just my thing, Frank.
Chris, did you have comments too?
Yeah, well, so Frank took some of the words out of my mouth, because that last slide Chris was ending on is sort of our bonus playground. And I've really not been terribly involved in this. I mean, I get the periodic updates, but that is not what I understood the primary focus was of all the revisions. And Lisa, not to put too much pressure on you, but when we did the design, we had the design development milestone on this project, and we had the working groups. We had a site working group, and that include a representative of the DAC. So I'm always eager, and it maybe it's a good conversation to have sooner rather than later, because this project won't be done till the summer of 25. But if there are lessons learned just about our process where we can somehow be more collaborative, more representational to others, I think it'd be helpful to have a conversation about that, so we can do it a little differently and a little better, next time. But certainly the intention was to have that representation from DAC, a part of that group, and I think we got that. And although some of these revisions are coming a little late, it's not impacting the project in a negative way, because I think, as we've been saying now for actually quite a few weeks, we were definitely, the administration was starting to get some feedback that we didn't get kind of initially at the design development stage. And so Warner Larson and Brait are both aware that this input and these changes were coming. In terms of time or timing, Lisa, I thought our intention tonight was, in fact, actually to authorize TAP A to kind of go back to Warner Larson and include these revisions. That is the K-5 and the pre-K that Frank was just saying. Actually include those in this upcoming landscape package. So, we reviewed the actual landscape changes with David, 2-3 weeks ago or something. There are going to be several things that are going to be in this package. And the intention is that this is going to be included as well. And I think some of what was just presented tonight, goes back to, I think, the second week of March. So I think it's been out there for a while. I think it absolutely makes sense to go back and look at that bonus playground. But I mean, Lisa, are you comfortable moving forward to authorize Warner Larson and TAP A to include these changes for K-5 and the pre-K in this upcoming landscape package?
I guess, I'm there's a couple of things there that I wouldn't put in, but that's just maybe me. But I don't want to not have it move forward. So I'm glad to see what has been done, but I think in the future, we just want to be involved a little bit earlier, so to make sure that we select the appropriate equipment and playground resources, that we have the stuff that's really accessible for all. So, that's just because, see, the thing is, you've got stuff that maybe meets the guidelines, but it's not 100%, and I guess that's where I'm coming from. So that's just maybe me, but let's move it forward. I just, yeah, I guess.
Who represented the DEAC at the meetings?
Well, no, when we did it, we did the whole, we did the whole thing, but we made comments about some of the equipment that may not be right in a certain area. Like those, I call it stepping stones, or those wooden things there, those blocks. Those are not, I
Yeah.
know that's pre-K, but that's really not accessible at all.
We-
And
we'll
that's kind of
revisit that.
I look at that more of a hazard, you know what I mean?
Lisa, I would just add that not everything is accessible
I
and
know,
inclusive.
Frank, I know.
We're trying to strike that balance, right? So
Okay,
if you have if there's some specific things, particularly around the preschool and the K-5 playground, if you have feedback that you'd like to get, just please get it to me. We can pull the design team back together and go over it. But I do feel like we've come a long way on this based on the feedback that we received from you and others.
yeah,
And
no,
I
no,
do
it's,
think all in all, it's pretty inclusive and accessible.
yeah, no, it's good, Frank. It's just that there are some things I just see there that I wish we didn't put in it. That's all, But we'll take a look at it again.
Lisa,
But
we'll take
but
those stumps out right now. Chris, Shark, get the stumps out of
Gone.
it, will you?
That-
Right now.
Take the
better
stumps
Get it
out,
off.
Chris.
Just take it, cut the slide out right now.
You better believe it. Watch this.
All right, let's move it forward then. Okay, guys.
Done.
Because the rest of the
We're
stuff
getting
looks
rid of it.
pretty good. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, that back area we will revisit and we will make that better. And it's on
No,
me for
it's
probably
been a
showing
lot of-
that, but yeah, I appreciate all the comments
Mhm.
and input. Without you guys, it wouldn't be as good as it is.
And, Frank, I know everybody's put a lot of work into it, and I want to thank you for that, and everybody in the committee. It is just, just little things, but appreciate it. If you want to move it forward, we'll move it forward.
Well, no, I'm just, Lisa, this would be nowhere near where it is without your feedback and the feedback of some of our WinPAC representatives.
Oh,
And,
they've
it
been
was
great.
tremendous amount of help in all this. So
And Lisa, the motion tonight is that's going to be limited to just the K-5 and the pre-K, playground and play structure changes that Chris presented. So it won't even include that bonus area that they continue to look at.
Okay, great.
so moved, Mr. Nixon, if that was a motion.
Well, I think I have it under payments and authorizations.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I'll
do it
save it
all.
until then.
Yeah.
But we'll get there soon.
Any other questions for Chris Shockey for Tape?
I don't want to delay, but when you showed a slide at the very end, there's a blue line showing, Chris, I just had out of curiosity, where is the existing tree line and what does that blue line meant? The bonus playground area, or however you want to call it.
Oh man, I deleted those.
That's a good answer.
Let's see if I can get that back.
That conflict no longer
What is
exists.
that blue
Yeah,
line?
right.
Leave it to work. And then what is that dark blue line?
I believe that is the floodplain.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
we wanted to stay out of the floodplain.
Okay. And where's the existing trees? They're nowhere close to this, so that's being left out there.
Yeah, so we're kind of right on the
Okay.
field. Right. Yeah. But yes, that blue line is the floodplain.
So the trees that are being left out there is far from where they're going to play. That's what the question I'm going at. When you go out there, you can see an existing tree line between the school and the field.
Yes,
Where would that be
it's more
falling?
to the right.
Away.
Let's see. So this is kind of that bonus play back here.
Yes,
And then this is the
the
existing
tree line
trees.
that you would
Yep.
see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
Because
there's,
I wasn't sure how close would it be when the kids are playing, so.
yeah, no, there's, and then from one of our last discussions, there was some trees, some pines in here that will have to be removed, but that's kind of that, if you remember.
Okay, okay,
It's
okay,
it's right along there.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
Chris, I think we authorized in our meeting with David, I think he identified 4, right? There's some
Yes.
old eastern white pines back
Yep.
there to come down.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's 4 right there, and then there's an oak that was damaged back that way. So
Right.
those will come down. But yes, and then there's the rest of the woods back that way.
All right. I
Frank,
know
you have
it's a
another
tough
question?
Yeah, I know it's a tough balance when you have a high energy kids and the other
No,
ones
Jay,
and,
I'm
making
good. I
it
thought I had
fun.
my hand down.
Yeah,
All set,
no,
thanks.
just want to make sure.
It's a tough job, but anyway, thank you. All right.
Okay. Anything else for Chris? We'll move on. All right, we're gonna go on to the gymnasium update. And Chris Nixon, you're gonna step in for Meg on
No.
this?
That was going to be you. You were going to talk about this one, I thought. You want me to?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm reading the wrong note across here. So we did have 4 competitive architects bid the job. Chris, myself, and Meg did a evaluation sheet out. We all read all the proposals, and Tape won the bid. So they're out for a proposal. And I think it came in today. I didn't get a chance to get caught up in my emails, but I think we got the actual proposal today with the costs. So we'll be reviewing that and sharing it with the committee. And I was surprised to see that we got 4. Probably 3 of them were real good bids, and one of them really shouldn't have bid on the project. But it was a lot to go through. They had a lot of references on gymnasiums and stuff, so it was very competitive. It's good. Any questions on that?
I just want to say, even though Chris Blesson isn't with us tonight, but Chris Sharkey, if you don't mind, pass this along to Chris Blesson. One of your competitors made the observation that what constitutes grade 2 maple and athletic facilities has changed a bit. It has been backsliding over the past 10 years. We saw some interesting photographs of grade 2 10 years ago versus last year, and that kind of consistency is gone. So that it was a good alternative. If you guys weren't in it, that might have been the team we went with. But the message was you might want to reconsider grade 1 versus grade 2. So
Understood.
we should think about that maybe as an ad alternate or something.
Okay. I appreciate
That's-
that.
Okay, now we'll move on to Chris. Springtown meeting warrant, which I sent out
Okay.
today.
So I know I had shared with the committee at a recent meeting kind of where we thought the final draft was on language. So I think you all understand the town management. They get all the articles coming in from public bodies, boards, committees, commissions, and so forth. They review them with council, just to be sure the wording is correct, and then it actually goes off to the printer. So what Jay forwarded you earlier today, you're all getting an advance copy of what's going to land in your mailbox in the next few days. I think this went to the printer last week. So every article at upcoming Springtown meeting is there. Article 19 is the number assigned to our master plan article. And Article 30, number 34 is assigned to the high school gym project. Let me start with that one first. So just to remind the committee, it was really the select board that kind of took the lead on this. So this is a jointly sponsored Article 34 between, the select board and the EFPBC. The select board just reorganized last week after the election. Michelle Pryor is the new chair of the select board. John Fallon is the vice chair. They asked John Fallon to make the presentation. He called me the next day and asked if I give him a hand. So he and I have yet to do it, but we're going to work out a joint presentation, which I guess is fine because it's a jointly sponsored article. So John and I will present something for Article 34 for the high school gym. And then under Article 19, that's the master plan. Jay and I are going to continue to have some conversations about presentation on this one, whether it might actually include our superintendent, but we haven't twisted his arm hard enough yet on that. Last time we went for funding, we did a joint presentation and it did include the superintendent, but we'll see. That's not going to be hard to pull that together. Because we're basically looking for very similar scope, actually a little less now, given the other buildings we've accomplished. And then the other thing I want to remind the committee about is, so you're on the warrant, what you're seeing is the actual article language. So you haven't seen the motions yet, but we have, as you know, we've already submitted those. Those are actually at the printer this week. The motion book. Management has asked for background language by Wednesday, meaning like less than 48 hours from now. So we have a bit of work to do there. That's just sort of the explanatory text at town meeting to literally give them a background on why it is we're asking for what it is we're asking for. So that's on our plate. I'll be working on that with Jay and with Frank. And then also just want to remind you guys, by charter, we cannot take up any financial. So town meeting opens on Monday, April 29th. But by charter, we cannot take up any financial articles until May. So the first night of town meeting that actually falls in May is Thursday. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays. So these two articles, 19 and 34, they're not going to come up prior to May 2nd. They may come up on the 6th, depending upon how deep town meeting goes. And we clearly have a couple of potentially lengthy, long debate items, maybe contentious items at town meeting this spring. Hopefully we don't go more than 4 nights, but we could. It's happened before. So don't expect any action on these until, sort of into the first week of May or mid-May. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions, Chris? Thank you for putting this all together. It's a lot of work.
Happy
All right.
to.
Payments and authorizations that I sent out earlier. Andrew, can you bring that up?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay.
Is that right, Jay? The
No,
agenda?
do you actually have the manager's letter from Meg?
I think that's all I have here. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the other side.
You want me to forward it to Andrew real quick?
Yeah, if you could.
I'm mobile, right? I'm on my iPad, so that's why I can't share it. But let me, I'm gonna send it to you right now, Andrew. Just give me a
Okay.
moment. All right, it's on its way. You should see it. While it's going, Jay, can I just share with the committee that included in this letter, there is a payment authorization for SGH. So that's with the high school project. I think it would be good to, I would just like to share with the EFPBC, they're still plugging away. They've done a lot of their physical testing. They've done a lot of their lab analysis. They're in the process of pulling the work together. They also know when town meeting starts. And so we're hopeful that they'll be able to give us some information we can share with town meeting, particularly around this additional testing they did on the upper floors by Monday, April 29th. None of their additional testing indicates any additional corrosion, actual corrosion or delamination. So that's good news.
That's real good news. Yeah.
Why do we have them tested on upper floors, Chris? I had the question when we were saying it in a couple of meetings.
Say that again,
Okay.
Geeta.
Why did we have SGS test the concrete on the upper floors as well? Is that, did I understand correctly?
Yep, that was part of their work scope. Chris Conway had actually made that suggestion since we understood carbonation was one of the underlying causes that led to some of that existing deterioration. So, but even if when you test these cores, even if you find, and it's a phenolphthalein chemical test in the lab when you crush that concrete, even if you find carbonation, that doesn't, you're not going to get, corrosion or delamination until and unless you get the actual oxidation, right? So exposure to water or moisture. So that's just one of like 3 elements that you need, but that'll be in their report, which we'll be getting shortly, I think. So yeah, they identified, I think, 3 or 4 areas, including an area in the gym, and they didn't see anything. and I'm sorry to take that sideways, Jay, but in that conversation with them, they've made a suggestion, and I think it's a good one, that Meg is gonna find a way to include in the specs on the gym project, which hopefully town meeting will support. That once the actual floor comes up, I mean, the existing rubberized floor, Gita, when that comes up and we expose the structural floor, below, their recommendation would be, that would be a good time to go in with the sounding. They can't do that right now, but once they can get access to concrete, they could. They've seen nothing that suggests any delamination or corrosion yet, but that would be a good time to do that. So Meg's gonna figure out how to put an allowance in the spec so they can get in and do that.
Okay. All right.
I'm done
thanks.
occupying time. I think Andrew.
No,
finally got
and getting the gym tested before we make such an investment was a great idea anyways.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, we need a peace of mind before doing that.
Jay, you should see the town manager.
We do, we have, thank you, Don. So we have, Break Builders application number 4. And all the backup was on the Favory Harbor Network. So Triumph is just our lease. LCN, I'm not sure. I didn't read the backup yet to see what that was, but in Tap A and Lero. So most of them are, gonna check on the backup on the LCN. Andrew, do you know what the LCN is for?
Let's see.
Is that a network?
I think that was for
Let me
part of the
see.
Parkhurst modules.
There's too much there to go.
Yeah, you'll never, yeah,
Everybody go blind.
okay.
Did you guys want the playground authorization here too, the spending or no?
So that wouldn't be a funding authorization. I'm happy to make that motion now if you want, Jay. So
Sure,
it's more just, it's authorizing the design team on what to include. So my motion was going to be moved to include in the upcoming Warner Larson request for price package, the K-5 and pre-K playground and play structure revisions presented this evening. And in other words, that would go into the same package David is already working on for literally the landscaping that we had talked about a few weeks ago. This package is going to include that expanded ramp and the platform for the porta potties on the field. So I think I talked to the committee, rather than issuing 4 or 5 separate packages, it'll all be one package. And Jay, I think you've had a conversation with Andy about still getting Break to actually break out the prices for all
Yes.
these things. So we understand what the value is.
can we get a second for that?
Second,
Who was that?
Richard,
Okay, thank you, Richard. We'll do a roll call. Frank?
Yes.
Okay, Lisa
Yes,
and Geetha,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Colleen,
yes.
Mark,
Aye.
okay, Don,
Yes.
and Emily.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark, you have a question?
I just wanted to let you all know the LCN was for backing the fiber to a handhole and then making safe.
Got it. For demolition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Remember meeting them out there. So good. Okay, any other questions on the manager's letter?
No.
Anyone feel like making a motion?
I'll make one if you want me to. I move to authorize payment to Great Builders Corporation, Falvey Associates, Triumph Modular, Harbor Networks, LCN, Tape Architects, and the Hill Lero team as outlined in the manager's letter this evening dated April 8th, 2024.
And do you want to get the authorization also?
The
That's cool.
the pay for SGH.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just include that as
Okay.
well as Simpson, Gumpertz and Hager for the high school
I
consulting.
second, done.
Thank you, Don.
second,
Okay, another roll call. Frank,
Yes.
Lisa,
yes,
Geetha,
yes,
John, John,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Colleen,
Yes.
Mark,
I,
Richard,
Yes.
and Emily.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'll get that over to her tonight. Okay, lastly, next meetings, April 22nd, May 6th, and May 20th.
Okay.
We're working around April
Jay-
vacation.
Jay, before we end tonight, were you or Chris Sharkey just going to follow up with the committee on where we stood with the footing relocations? I think Geeta had some questions earlier about canopy
Yeah,
footings and water
I was
retention.
thinking that
'cause
was
we
the
had
same
talked
one
about
as
that.
the 008, but it isn't. So they are moving. There was Chris, what's the technical name that TAPE uses, but a directive to back up one of the canopies 3 or 4 feet or so in order get move the columns and the parking area, and it will give us some additional space, green space, to do some plantings. There shouldn't be any cost involved from what we're told, but it's in the design stage and it's been sent to Brait. So we'll wait to see how that comes back. It's a good idea. They're hoping to get some grass in there or something. So gotta do whatever we can to screen these.
And Chris Sharkey, I just, for what it's worth, I still kind of share Jay's interest in, I think it would be interesting to look maybe an updated rendering or plan or elevation once you guys can figure out with David what you can accommodate in terms of tall grasses. But I still am kind of sympathetic to Jay Nardone's kind of comment that it may still be worthwhile looking at some sort of architectural screen, maybe something that can, I don't know if does it span those columns, something ground mounted? I'm not sure, but before we feel like we've completely fixed the issue, it'd be good to go back and look at that again. But I think it's a good move. I think it's a good change since we got some, I think, pretty constructive input from the abutters.
Yeah. I can talk to Warner Larson about that,
So,
see if they have ideas.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't be talking like full height screening, but with mostly headlights coming in at night and spinning into someone's house.
Yep.
So it can be done without looking too bad, but we'll see what they have to say. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. Did you second that, Mike? Okay. All right, one more roll call tonight. Frank,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Geetha,
yes.
John,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
okay, Richard,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and Emily.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Have a
good
good
night.
night. We'll
Good
see you on
night.
the
Good night.
22nd.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
guys.
Second, good night.
Good night.